We're now going to shift a bit. We're delighted to have Olivier Perdriel from Skyfirst joining us. Olivier is a massive fan of the French tax, and he's going to be taking us through that. But first of all, tell us a little bit about Skyfirst and how you are involved with Malta.
So, hello everyone. Thank you for having me, Al. Skyfirst is an operator specialized on. Oh, that's nice. Specialized on long-range haul and large cabin aircraft. We do high-end services on a small scale in a certain way. We have half a dozen aircraft, and we want to stick to that. We've been in Malta now for 15 years. I was working on a French AOC, French tax, French AOC, there you go. And ended up in Malta with a Learjet 45, and I was doing a tour of Europe, actually, to see which authority could be the nicest with a non-professional that I was. And I ended up in Malta with Mike O'Brien. I don't know if he's here, but
he was this morning.
He was here this morning, and I just fell in love with the team and the pragmatism, the efficiency, and the fact that they would accompany us on an everyday basis to be as safe as possible, while being very exigent on what they're doing. And I think we forget to say that from time to time. So that's how I ended up here.
Okay, so I was joking about the French solidarity tax. You've been pretty outspoken about it. I think you've said that it's going to cost France more money than it earns. It's going to force operators out of business and could shut down smaller airports. That's fair? You've said all those things. Is this just the start? Are we going to see other European countries following?
Well, I don't think it's a start. I think it's already going on for many years. I mean, we have aviation is probably one of the most taxed industries. We have noise tax, we have passengers tax, we have overflying tax, landing tax, and so on. So when people are saying we can tax more aviation because they're polluting or whatever, or they're rich, I think there is a misunderstanding on who they're taxing. The objective from the French tax is to tax the rich people or the people that were flying around. But in the end, it's the operator who's paying the tax. And we are already paying all the tax for everyone. So the issue now is that this accumulation of tax, which by the way is very complex to declare and to pay, some tax you don't even know how to do it, and I'm sure I'm not the only operator here to say that. It makes it very complex to operate safely, because at some point, anytime they add a new tax for us operator, where our financials are not the greatest, we're struggling as much as we can to, compensate with all the complexity that is going around over the last 15 years. Well, those additional tax are actually making our life harder, and at some point would touch the safety, because if we have less money on our accounts, well, we're going to train less, we're going to, hire less people or less experience, because the money will be an issue. So I think it's not a starting, I think it's been over for a while. I just think this one in France is completely crazy. It's way too much. There was absolutely no study on impact for the local operators. I think the French operators will be the first one to be hit, because they'll be the first one to be checked. But the amount of money they've been asking for passenger tasks is just going to reduce the number of flights in France. We've seen some clients saying, well, I'd rather go somewhere else, Therefore, if you reduce the number of passengers in airports, some local airports like La Roche-sur-Yon or Avignon may have struggled into financing their own business. And a lot of ecologists are trying to shut down most of the airport we have. They might succeed through that. So I think there is a lack of study and a misunderstanding of how we operate the aircraft. We might be operating aircraft that are worth millions, but it doesn't mean that we have millions to spare. Okay.
And you think we'll see operators closing down or moving?
Well, I think at some point, if we do not increase our prices, which we should at some point, I think, yes, that's unfortunately. And the issue is, history showed us that before shutting down, operators tend to do things that are not always the safest way. And that's maybe the danger we need to avoid.
That's a very, very fair point. You're also not a big fan of the EU fuel tankering legislation, are you?
That's very interesting. No, I'm not a fan at all. I think I'm not the only one. Charles Patch talked about it earlier. Well, once again, I think it's a misunderstanding of our operation. It was apparently created for ecological reasons, maybe for tax purposes or whatever. The issue is we're not tankering because of money or because of CO2. We're tankering because of operational aspects. Some airports are not capable today to deliver the quantity of fuel that we're going to ask them, or we are asking them. So what are we doing? We're making exemptions to all those airports to say, oh, look, there is only one truck for the fuel. If we want to do the fuel over there, we won't be able to do it before 5 hours. Then it becomes a duty issue and therefore a safety issue. So once again, it's a lack of understanding of the operational aspects of an operator. Operating an aircraft is a complex job. And this is when they haven't been looking into our needs and our complexity to say, okay, how can we do that? Because maybe there is a purpose when it comes to the CO2. And that I'm completely agreeing. But they may have started in another way, which is, okay, how you, operator, can participate into tankering less, voluntarily, for example.
See, EU refuel is really being driven by the EU, and it's focused on airlines. It's not, business aviation was an afterthought.
But the operational aspects are also for the airlines. Some airports are not as adapted as others to make fuel. Therefore, if you increase your turnaround by 25 minutes, 30 minutes when you're an airline because you're waiting for fuel because the truck is with someone else, you're going to be late. You're going to be late. It's going to cost you a lot. So at some point, regulation needs to sit down with the operator a bit more. And I would emphasize, we, operator, need to sit down together and as a group start defending ourselves, because that's the main issue. We're fighting each other on sales and managing aircraft, but we should be focusing on to regrouping ourselves on those questions and start defending ourselves with a bit more lobbying. A lot of other industry are doing it. We're trying, but I think we should not enough operators are regrouped to do it.
And do you think that should be done by the existing associations like EBA France, EBAA France, or EBA?
MBA?
Yeah.
Well, I do. Even though I appreciate what they're doing, and they're doing a lot of things, but there is not that many operators in their boards. Because we operators have had the tendency to be discreet on our sides, not really willing to be involved. I think this time is ended. We have to regroup, put some money on the table, and actually work as a team to defend ourselves. Otherwise, we're going to increase the number of regulation. There is information security, Part IS, which is coming, another 300 pages, which is a little bit of nonsense for us as operators. So once again, if we don't regroup and go against those regulations, or at least try to make a voice to show them what we're doing. So as I will tell you, but there is a website, you can put your remarks on it. How do you make remarks on 300 pages or 800 pages? You don't. Sit down on the table with us, operators, and let's see what we can do.
So I think Peter, in his session just before coffee, he was looking at ground handling and claims. You had an aircraft damaged in a ramp incident, and you actually publicized it for safety awareness, which is rare. What are you seeing on ground handling?
Yeah, my team told me don't put that online, but I think we should. Once again, well, we had the Falcon 7X on a parking, and a bigger aircraft started taxiing in front of us while he was supposed to wait for a tug. He just blasted full speed to go out, and unfortunately that parking was with a lot of rocks, so he peppered the aircraft with thousands of rocks. This means the 3 engines are out, and it's going to be millions of dollars of repairs and probably months to get there, just because one guy didn't want to wait. So I do understand the pressure of the clients and the pressure of the operation, but there is a way we see that there is less thinking of our environment. We're not alone, and people tend to forget courtesy and say, okay, I may not start full throttle because I have an aircraft at the back, if any passenger would have passed at that moment, it could have killed them. So this is where we see, unfortunately, the last few years showed an increase in the number of accidents on ground. There is, I think it's plus 39 or 40% increase of accident on ground. So we talk a lot about safety in flight. I think we should start also thinking that safety starts on ground with the handling, with the taxiing, with everything. So it's a little bit experience that we need to spread around and remember that anything that is not done properly can create tremendous damage.
Do you think part of the problem is that we had COVID and you had that sudden rebound across aviation, commercial, and so everyone's just been running to keep up?
Well, definitely. I mean, in 2020, the specialists were saying, oh, the traffic's not going to come before 2030. So a lot of operators, both commercial, private jets, they started, letting people go and trying to still stay alive as much as possible. When the traffic came back in 2022, I don't think we were ready for it. So we just massively hired on every aspect with maybe a lack of training. And that we can see it now. The issue is, now that it's maybe a bit calmer, the market, I would say maybe it's now the time to sit down with all those people and rework on the experience, the knowledge, and maybe the training that is necessary to remind everyone that one small mistake can have a huge impact on others. I mean, for us, for example, this aircraft not being there for 6 months might be a huge loss for the owner, of course, but also for the company. It could have been easily avoided.
Okay, we've heard a lot about aircraft management being a tough business, but a strangely addictive one, where people get into it and don't go out. What gets you out of bed in the morning?
My kids. Very early, too early sometimes. More seriously, I mean, aviation is a passionate job. I mean, I heard someone talking about passion. Clearly, one thing that is very interesting is that there is never 2 days the same. So anytime I wake up and I go to work, I know there'll be a challenge, either a flight planning issue, an AOG, which happened recently, or a passenger being late, or a duty. You always have a problem to solve. And what is interesting is mainly those problems are to be solved as a team. Therefore, you're challenged, but you're challenged with others. So whatever people trying to do AI, which is good, I think we're doing a human job. And that's what makes it very interesting and passionate in a certain way.
And on that cheery note, thank you very much, Olivier.
Thank you very much for having me.
Brilliant, thank you.